Ladies and gentlemen, the 3 knockdown rule on Triller is in effect. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Mario Rich Strike Lopez. A weekend of upsets.
Whoa, listen, history was made over the weekend, and I got to witness it. More on that later.
And so did I. We want to thank Tim Frazier, Justin Buffalo Knuckles, and Tino on the edits. We got so much to talk about. From the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas on the Zone pay-per-view, still the WBA light heavyweight titleist Dmitry Bivol with a 12-round decision over Saul Canelo Alvarez. Last week, Mario, you said this fight is eminently losable for the game's biggest star, but till we see it, it's hard to believe it. But now we are all Bivolers. Are we not?
Oh, my God.
I had to get it right off the top. I could not resist waiting
laughter,
all
I was
weekend
crying.
for that one.
Wow. Yeah, I know you did, and you thought about it. You know, it's funny that you say that because it was like I wasn't believing my own eyes in the sense that I knew what Bivol was capable of and the type of fighter he was, and yet it was going to be hard for me to convince myself that Canelo, who seems to be at the peak of all his powers and the darling right now of Vegas and of the sport, and obviously the biggest star, that he would. There's a big difference on whether he could do it and whether he would get the decision. Okay?
And more on that later.
Exactly. But I thought, okay, to me, last when I saw him against Kovalev, and we were both there, I saw Kovalev having a lot of success until he wasn't in the end of the round. Now here you, or in the 11th round, pardon me, towards the end of the fight. Now here you have a guy who's younger, faster, throws more combinations, who on paper is all wrong for Canelo, right? It's style-wise. So I thought, okay, there's a guy that really could give him problems, pull off this upset easily. And not necessarily an upset, too, because he's the more natural man on this weight class. In a sense, more on that later. But I thought, okay, he's all wrong for him. He could really win this fight. But then I thought, God, is it going to be that hard for him to get a decision there? And then I thought, well, again, going back to him being all wrong for him, I just saw him beat Billy Joe Saunders and Caleb Plant back-to-back, guys that are fleet of foot, that are mobile, that
Considered slick,
who theoretically have issues or pose issues for Canelo, right? It just proved that Bivol is head and shoulders about all those guys. Everyone's talking about the size and the weight class. I beg to differ. It's the skill set and the mindset of Bivol. I think that was the huge factor. I never forget, Bivol was in the studio right here. We talked to him, and he told me face to face he can make 68 easy, because he's not that big of a light heavyweight. And as we're speaking right now, recent reports came out that Bivol would be down to go to 168 and fight Canelo. So let's talk about the fight itself. My guy boxed beautifully. Went in there not intimidated, forgot about he's fighting the biggest star in the sport, forgot about the grand entrance in the hoopla.
pomp and circumstance.
He was not overwhelmed by the moment. He boxed beautifully. He had every feint. He had Canelo jabbing. When he did that, he did a combo. He did jab, and a straight right down the middle of the belly. And I was like, oh, and you saw Canelo kind of, ooh. It's like you almost heard it. I go, oh, man, he came to fight. I saw a much more active Bivol. I saw a fighter who systematically just seemed to box a very intelligent bout, disciplined bout, didn't get lulled in to exchanges that were unnecessary. And it wasn't just the jab. Bivol's footwork, his balance were something else. Kept Canelo off guard. I felt like Canelo, who has had so much success with his power, he likes to lull guys in, make you overreach, and make a mistake, and he makes you pay for it. He's beautiful with his counters, as we've seen, and he eventually sort of cuts you off. But he didn't allow him to really ever set his feet and counter effectively or to get his timing. He was quicker than Canelo, getting off the punch. He even, towards the end of the fight, when he got comfortable, where it's not really his style, allowed himself to get inside. It wasn't that he was walking him down. He was just sort of boxing beautifully and executing his game plan. The crazy thing that all he had to do was be somewhat competitive in the 12th round, Canelo, and they got it, and they would have gave to him. Blows my mind. But I was a little frustrated as a Canelo fan because I love him, and more on Canelo when I'm done with it. But he never really got behind the jab. It seemed like he was unloading punches on Bivol and trying to load them up. And I know he was taking his shots to the arms, which often he does, but Bivol proved to it didn't take effect of him. You had a guy who was not only a smart fighter and a disciplined fighter, but executed his game plan, had a real stout chin, was not intimidated by the moment, and was there to win the fight. Did not show up for the paycheck, came in as a champion, and fought as a champion. Just a masterful display of boxing. And I want to make the point, it wasn't so much the size advantage. I think he's just damn good.
Dmitry Bivol was cool as a cucumber. This is what he had to say about stepping up to the plate on the game's biggest stage.
Here we are with Dmitry. Dmitry, you have shaken up the boxing business. How do you feel?
Great. I did my job. I did what I should to do. I believe in me, and I'm happy.
There's so much pressure when you fight Canelo, and I think other guys have shrunk from the moment. You never shrunk from the moment. You said, I'm a boxer. I box. My job is to fight. You never felt the pressure this week at all.
I tried to think about only fight. Of course, it's bothering me sometimes when I was sitting here. I thought, oh, everyone against me. If I lose, no problem. But it told me small man inside of me. But I told this man, hey, you should win. Hey, get out here, You should win. You win. You are the champion. This is just a fight.
You know what's funny? When you came out first, so you're walking, you enter the ring, and then Canelo comes out on that platform, all the fireworks. Did you ever look at it and go, hey, that's pretty neat? Or did you turn your back on it? Did you watch any of the Canelo show, the entrance? How did he react to the entrance of Canelo? That was a lot of pomp and circumstance there.
Just fancy.
Yeah, fancy, right?
Yeah, just fancy, but it doesn't matter for boxing match, how he went, how people believe in him. It doesn't matter for in the ring, In the ring, only me and him, not crowd in the ring, not his
popularity,
his pink wearing
fancy clothes.
It's not in the ring, In the ring, only our skills. I fight only against skills, not.
Did the fight get easier in the second half?
Вадик, не уходи, пожалуйста. What
Did the fight get easier in the second half?
Second half.
Like the round 7 through 12, did it get easier for you?
Maybe, I don't know. I was in focus all fight.
One round at a time. Just fight one round at a time.
Every round was focused for me, hard for me. Even I didn't throw the punch. It was hard for me. When I threw the punch, it was hard for me. All fight was hard.
It's been a long night. I want to wrap it up quickly. When they said still undefeated and still champion, how did it feel?
Great. Как сказать, признали. They admit my victory. It's great.
Yeah, Mario, to expand upon what you said, when you are the smaller man, in theory, moving up in weight to face a bigger guy, the expectation is you're quicker, faster, and more athletic. That simply was not the case. And Friday morning, I got a call from Rudy Hernandez, Chicanito's brother, one of the great boxing minds, who has seen Bivol train back 4 years ago at the old Legends Gym in Norwalk, and he's always been high on him. But he told me the last year or two, this guy is so good, but we don't see everything. And he called me and said, Steve, I know you're giving this guy a shot. Is he going to show everything? This guy is so good, but every fight he frustrates me. In this fight, as you mentioned, I loved it in the 10th round. He said, you know what? I've jousted. I've fenced. Let me put on the hard hat. I'm going to get into the trench. We're going to knife fight. I had a really good ringside seat. There were 3 times when Canelo landed a punch thinking, I have punctuated this exchange, and he got countered. That has not happened since Mayweather, and it was visible on his face how frustrated he was.
Even more than Mayweather, because Mayweather was more of fencing and jousting. Bivol was throwing 5, 6, 7 punch combinations and throwing them with authority. My guy was really athletic, effective, and smart. Again, he didn't, when he was against the ropes, and I don't know if Canelo was trying to
tactical discipline.
Exactly. He wasn't allowing himself to get lulled into
a firefight.
Exactly. A firefight. He would go back to his game plan. But the way he was unloading those combos, Canelo looked frustrated in there. And again, Canelo, to me, still pound for pound in my eyes, honestly. Still great, still elite. I'm going to show you why, because I'm going to tell you why, because he still dared to be great, Kim. You give me another resume that comes close to Canelo. Yeah, he lost, and he lost convincingly. But who else has taken challenges that have dared to be great and has wanted to?
That I won't disagree, but when you lose
that's my point.
this bad, and I had it 118, 110, 10 rounds to 2, going back to the tactical discipline of Dmitry Bivol, who moves to 20-0, 11 knockouts. Tim Bradley had one of the great lines in his preview for ESPN. He said, Dmitry Bivol can't just go with the current. He has to be the current. I thought what just summed up exactly what he was.
And that same current, Canelo, which I'm assuming was part of his game plan. You need to pound the body with a guy like Bivol. You need to take away the legs, except he didn't have the opportunity to get inside. That jab was coming fast and furious and was like a piston. And every time he'd want to set his feet, he would pump it out there. The timing of Bivol was...
But Mario, if you're going to work to the body, or you're going to chip away and break a guy's arm and shoulder down, you have to work in volume. And it was very evident from the first round. Mario, Canelo was loading up with every single punch, it seemed like, with all his might.
Exactly. And I think that works at middleweight and maybe super middleweight, but I feel the attributes that make him successful at those weights seem stunted at 75. And I don't think he can get away with it. His frame just doesn't seem suited to carry that much weight. Again, I love the guy because who else dares to be great like that? Who else wants to make history? So I don't fault him. And I know initially afterwards, every fighter says, I thought I didn't do enough to win. You get caught up in the moment, or I did enough. And I'm sure when he's honest with himself, he knows he didn't. And later on, now he's thinking of going back down to super middle, which I think is a much smarter mood. But you could see he's not as mobile. He's not as powerful, and I don't even think he's as sharp at 75. Obviously, still world class, incredible, but in my mind, still look, he wasn't even a real big middleweight, much less light heavyweight.
Well, speaking of Canelo's future, it was revealed there is a rematch clause, which then maybe scuttles plans for a third chapter with Gennady Golovkin. Eddie Hearn spoke on this at the post-fight press conference.
Canelo against Dmitry Bivol 2 is probably the biggest fight in boxing right now. But it's going to be down to Canelo, and obviously we'll speak to Dmitry and Vadim, but I can't see him not wanting to accept the challenge. I said in the build-up, it's like Canelo wants to handicap himself and fight these big, great champions to test himself. And tonight it was maybe a bridge too far against a great light heavyweight world champion. But I'm sure he'll be here soon. But knowing Sal, I would think he would only want one fight, which is the rematch with Dmitry.
So, Mario, a lot of options. We'll talk about that later. Going back to Dmitry Bivol, I love the fact that he layered his attack. And if you go back to when he first came to America about 4 years ago, when he blew out Samuel Clarkson on Showbox, stopped Ray Agnew, and then obliterated Trent Broadhurst with one punch, he was actually an offensive fighter. And I just wonder, in the last couple of fights, he mentioned it, he wasn't that motivated. And he actually intimated to me after the fight in his room, there was a little post-fight celebration. He said, if I would have scored all these knockouts, I may have not gotten this fight.
That's actually a good point. I don't think he planned it that way. I don't think he necessarily, that was his sort of master plan. I just think it rolled out. By the way, I did see that interview. My guy looked like he just shaved. He didn't look like he was in a fight. Canelo, as talented as he is, and he's the hardest worker in the room right there, you're right. I think he tried to wear down Bivol with punches to the arms and the shoulders, and he tried to lay some counter-punching traps, but it just wasn't working. And Bivol stayed composed, stayed on course, made the adjustments, and was the better man that night. So I bring that up because, Kim, I don't see anything different in adjustments being made that would help him in a rematch.
Even at 68?
Bivol can make 68 as well, too. I don't think Bivol's not that big of a guy either. He's taller, but he's not. Look, when you see Joe Smith or Beterbiev, which, by the way, a Beterbiev fight, that could be that we don't want any part of that. I don't think we're a part of the Canelo camp. But
you mean no more talk of Alexander Usyk?
Oh, dude, more on that later. That was no. You know what though? I admire the confidence. I like that he thinks he can beat everybody.
Or hubris? That's
Well,
a fine line.
listen. I want a guy that feels he could take on the world. That's fine. I want a guy that wants to unify
Mario.
2 weight classes above. We have too many fighters that are avoiding fighters, Kim. So I want that. But now that we're being real with ourselves, I don't know if I'm clamoring for that rematch so quickly.
Can Canelo's market value take 2 consecutive defeats? That's the question. And talk about the size.
Back to back, too.
Where I thought it did matter. I don't know if you saw it, Mario, but from ringside in the first 45 seconds of the fight, those jabs of Bivol really reddened the forehead
I saw
of Canelo. And I think it was his own laces with that high guard. Canelo had to look.
He's a fair-skinned guy anyway, but still.
Canelo had to look like this is a real, fresh, light heavyweight. And by the 3rd round, you could see him breathing hard. Want to talk about the trio of Tim, I wanted to cheat him, Dave Moretti, and Steve Weisfeld. As you mentioned, the fact that Bivol needed the 12th to secure 115-113 and avoid a dubious draw, and the fact that the first 4 rounds all went to Canelo. This is why I think all of us hesitated in picking Bivol, because we understand it's what I call the boxing exchange rate. He literally needed 10 rounds to get credit for 7, which means if he would have just won 7 or 8, he would have only got credit for 4 or 5.
How many
I
rounds
thought
did
it
you
was
give him?
atrocious. I had a 10-2.
Yeah.
Even the rounds that Canelo won, I'm not exactly sure that he won them that convincingly either.
I had it 9-3. Okay.
Very fair. That's the consensus.
Yeah, I had it about 9-3. Look, the size. Yeah, I think it did matter, but most importantly, I think Bivol's skilled.
Yes.
Mattered. And again, Canelo, I want to give him props because we should respect that he stepped up for this challenge. That was the most difficult guy that could have been. Forget this Boo Boo and Charlo, and you think those guys could have beat him?
No.
That's what I'm saying. Forget that. This is outside of Bivol and Beterbiev, then I think Canelo beats a lot of those. You know what I mean? The other light heavyweights out there. But like I said, you put Bivol down at 68, which he told me to my face he can make very easily. I don't know much changes, Kimster.
No, I don't.
I really don't.
And one more.
Again, I keep going back to that straight right that he threw to Canelo's belly. That just sort of froze him. I go, oh, damn. That's giving him some, I think it was around the 2nd round. That's making him respect him a little bit. And then it was effective. It was brutally effective.
Bivol's temperament, I'm just telling you, in another life, he could have been a fighter jet pilot or a surgeon. Nothing phases him. And he was adamant in telling me, he goes, I'm not nervous. This is not going to get to me. Whether it's fighting me, you, King Kong, Godzilla, Canelo, he approaches every fight as an assignment. And he told me, he goes, Steve, my job is to win. I'm the best light heavyweight, so I have to win. He didn't overcomplicate this whole process, and he's a great guy. I think people are very happy for him.
And you know what? It's funny because these guys from Russia, right? So these guys that come from these hardened areas, man, they're not going to get. It's not like these American fighters. Yeah. They're not going to get intimidated. No. They're not going to get overwhelmed. They're there business. Yeah. Like the horses that were at the Derby.
They don't get sad.
They don't get sad. They don't get sad. Like a Frazier, but they don't get sad. You're right. They don't get sad. They don't need times out. They are focused. Again, look, you gotta applaud. I don't want to make light of it because now you gotta applaud Canelo for daring to be great, but the judges way too generous.
Yeah,
way too generous. But Bivol was in control. He's. I love his personality. He's humble. He's a gentleman in there too, so it's kind of hard not to like the guy. And again, the people that are pointing out, well, he's ducking Andrade, Benavidez, Charlo, idiots. First of all, if you're making those sort of comments, but man, none of those guys beat Bivol. I'm confident in saying that. Do you think so?
Well, look, Tim Bradley said a couple months ago, and it surprised people. Best light heavyweight is Bivol. And he showed why, because the versatility and the fact. Remember,
I beg to differ, though. I still would put Beterbiev.
Okay, but Beterbiev's 38-39. He's hit the floor before. from punchers that aren't necessarily heavy-handed.
I know, but my
So-
guy's got 100% knockout rate. 100%. So he doesn't have to be that much success. So I still think that is a tough fight because he's a natural.
Well,
for Bivol,
I'm going to
too.
say right now, I don't want to hear Bob Arum anymore say, who's Dmitry Bivol? We don't need to make a fight with him and Bitter Bivol. Bob, they know who he is now. You can no longer poo-poo Dmitry Bivol.
No, you know who,
Stop that.
You know who, not to deviate too much, but you know what fascinates me? Because he is a big light heavyweight. And much like a Bivol, in a southpaw, though, Zurdo.
Okay, we'll talk about him later, but
we'll talk about Zurdo and a Bivol would be. Now I'm kind of clamoring.
I kinda
to
like
see-
that fight.
I like that fight a lot.
all right,
I
so
like that
moving
fight a
on.
lot.
This Saturday night, filled boxing schedule from the Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California. It's showtime. Maybe the best fight of the month on paper. The undisputed junior middleweight title of the world. It is the rematch between Jermell Charlo and Brian Castano. Last July 17th in 2021, they fought to a disputed draw. Mario, I'm going on the record right now. I think Castano wins the rematch.
I thought Castano won the first fight.
Yeah.
Am I crazy to think
No,
that?
that's the consensus.
Yeah, I really do. A lot of people that I talk to feel that Charlo will make the adjustments and that he will be victorious. Am I crazy to think that Castano will come in even more confident and will sort of pick up where he left off and make it more definitive this time?
That's the consensus that I've gotten from a lot of insiders. But in the
Really?
last 6 weeks, you know what I've been told by everyone that's gone to Manny Robles' gym? Castano's looking better than ever.
Oh, like to hear that.
Generally, his camps have been fat camps. This one's been a training camp, and I know it's a cliche, but he's in the best shape of his life.
Well, you know, you got it when you inside know you can beat someone. You got kind of ripped off for it. What's more motivation than that? That's gonna be a fun fight.
Here's my question: for large stretches of that fight, we're talking about 90 seconds to 2 minutes at a time. It was Castano who was the current.
Right.
He was the tide. He was coming in waves. And if it wasn't for Charlo landing 2 really hard punches, that fight becomes lopsided if you really look at it. Can Charlo either slow the pace or match it of Castano? Castano is who he is.
Well, that's
He's a
the thing.
pressure volume fighter.
So, do you make the adjustments? Do you have the tools to be able to make
Right.
the adjustments and execute that game plan? The people that I've been talking to seem to think he does.
Yes.
I'm talking about Charlo. They seem to think
Yeah.
that Charlo will. So that's why I'm intrigued by this fight.
Absolutely. Also on that same night, Toyota Arena, Ontario, California, on the Zone, the man you mentioned, light heavyweights in action. Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez takes on Dominic Bozell, and one of my favorite fighters, lightweight. Oh, the jumbo shrimp. William Zepeda takes on Rene Alvarado. Look, people are not liking this matchup, but there is a rhyme and a reason. It's a WBA eliminator. So if Zurdo wins it, he is now, in theory, the mandatory for Dmitry Bivol.
That's a fascinating fight.
Yeah, they were about to fight last year. Remember,
He's
there
a
were talks.
big. No, I know they were won that fight, and I see Zurdo a lot going to Brick House right there, and his trainer Julian Chua, very cool guy. And I seen him spar a lot. He's an elusive guy. He's a big guy, Cam too. He's an elusive guy
Rangy.
in there, rangy, a southpaw. Am I crazy to think that's an intriguing fight? I think he gives Bivol some problems
I
too.
tweeted this out on Sunday night as someone who wants to make fights, and we just can't have 2 guys fight each other for a year. I want to see that fight because, look, I'm not saying it's exciting. I'm not saying it's fireworks. Put that in L.A., promote the hell out of it. Let's make some fights here.
It's a star-making opportunity for Zurdo to be the Mexican that beat Bivol after beating the Mexican.
Yes.
Is it not?
And he'd be 44-0 if he beats Bozell.
That's what I'm saying. So it's there. It's there to be made. This is sort of like the best scenario that could have happened for Zurdo.
You know what's interesting is that 4 or 5 months ago, as they were going back and forth, both sides, Golden Boy Promotions and our good friend Vadim Kornilov, back then both kind of needed each other. They were both kind of like drifting ships into the night. Now things have changed for Bivol. He's now a guy. I'm not saying he's a superstar, but now he matters, and now Bivol's going to kind of sift through offers. But again, if you're the WBA mandatory and you want to be undisputed, part of your responsibility is taking on mandatory challengers.
Real quick, do you think Canelo executes that rematch class?
No, I don't. I have no inside information, but I think his people are going to say, you know what, let's lay back. We have Benavidez, we have other guys.
What if Bivol decides to go down on his own? Does he force his hand?
I don't. But here's the thing: that doesn't necessarily, unless he becomes a mandatory for one of those sanctioning bodies, and maybe those organizations say, well, you get grandfathered in. Again, I don't know if just moving down will actually force this. It might embarrass Canelo, though. I mean, let's just remember when Golovkin became the mandatory and he jumped the BC.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned Golovkin. I wouldn't mind seeing that fight at 68.
I always wanted.
More than ever.
No, I was
want
part
to
of the
see that
minority.
fight.
I never thought it was a blowout. I think Golovkin knows how to hit and fight Canelo. They know each other very, very well.
That's an exciting fight. So yeah, I agree. If I'm Canelo, by the way, I would go down, and entertain the Benavidez, the Charlos, whoever made in that weight class, and I'm hoping in a perfect world, Bivol decides to stay and fight Zurdo, and then the winner, of course, fights the winner of Beterbiev.
Also, William Zepeda. I say about guys like him, they don't fight like they're double parked. They fight like they're robbing a bank. He comes right out of the gate throwing a million punches. He's a lightweight. Now look, if you don't think Ryan Garcia would ever face Mercito Hester right now, is there any chance they would face Zepeda, the human full court press?
At some point, you got to face some real bullets.
Right, that's my point. And my understanding is Ryan Garcia is going to fight July 16th.
That's great.
Spoke to Alexis Rocha, good young welterweight coming off a big victory at USC. Me and Doug saw him in one of the corridors at the T-Mobile, and he says he's going to be on that undercard. Looks like it's going to be in Las Vegas, by the way. So mark that on your calendar. Okay. Moving on to news and notes on the next 3 knockdown rule on Triller with Steve Kim and Mario Lopez. Congratulations. I think this is a slow 80s camp for the career of Kelbrook. Can we all get rhythm here? Yeah.
But talk about a guy that dared to be great. He went up 2 weight classes to take on
the most ferocious version of Golovkin.
At the peak of his powers, my guy got a broken face from it.
Yeah.
But at least you respect a guy that dares to be great. And he went out on a high note, knocking out his arch nemesis in Amir Khan.
Think about this. For about 2-year stretch before the rise of Keith Thurman and Errol Spence, I thought he was the best 147-pounder on the planet. He got a little bit restless, but looking at the career at a scope, he's 36 years old. He walks away from the sport with the record of 40-3, 28 knockouts, former welterweight champion holding the IVF belt, and his only losses have come to Errol Spence, Triple G, and Terrence Crawford.
Nothing to be ashamed of there.
3 the hard way.
Probably the best physique at welterweight ever, too.
Yes.
That guy was put together.
And here's my view. His career wasn't perfect, but him beating his arch nemesis, as you said, Amir Khan, and just dominating, gave him peace. It was like Captain Ahab getting Moby Dick.
And to end on that note, too.
Also, we spoke about this earlier. Top Rank announced June 18th at the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden, light heavyweight unification bout, Artur Beterbiev and Joe Smith. Oh boy.
Look, like I said earlier, until my eyes show me different, how the hell you stop Beterbiev, bro? Hey, look, he's going up against a heavy-handed guy right here who put a buzz on Bivol himself. Bivol obviously ended up being victorious. But if Beterbiev is able to take out Smith again, too, dude, and he continues his 100% knockout ratio.
Yeah.
That's the most dangerous guy at light heavy. How can you deny him that?
Yes.
100% knockout ratio. That's ridiculous. That's like Mike Tyson knockout on the freaking Nintendo.
Oh, Mike Tyson Punch-Out.
Or Punch-Out, exactly.
Yeah.
Was Nintendo, right?
Yeah. It was a good game. It was a good game.
Yeah, exactly. Who has 100% knockout ratio? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Remember this, though. I believe he's 39. Age matters.
It does matter, but he doesn't have that many fights.
Age matters against a guy like Bivol.
Correct, but there's not too much. There's not too much tread on the tires. And have you seen Beterbiev train? That dude does like finger push-ups and the forearms and the wrists. That's what you call that natural Ivan Drago strength. Well, Ivan Drago was not natural, but you know what I mean. Yeah. But he's got that crazy strength. I'm impressed by that guy every time I see him fight.
All right, we come back. We have more on the 3 knockdown rule on Triller. And ladies and gentlemen, we are back on the 3 knockdown rule on Triller. And Mario, a very special guest. You know, I've been high on this young man for at least 3-4 years.
And listen, you called it. And when you had me tune in, I was very, very impressed. Really happy he's taking the time to check in with us. Of course, we're talking about Jaron Boots Ennis. What is going on, my man? How are you?
What's up? What's going on, y'all, man? Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, you got it, man. 24 years old, 28-0, 26 knockouts. That is quite the impressive record you got there, my friend. And you're going to be facing Custio Clayton this Saturday night on Showtime for the IBF Eliminator. Belt, of course, held by Errol Spence. How are you feeling? How's the weight? Where's your mind at right now?
I'm feeling great. Weight on point. I'm just coasting right now. You know, I'm ready. I can't wait. You know, I'm ready to shine and do my thing.
You have two older brothers, Derek, and is it Farah? Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah, both box
Farah.
Professionally. Was it sort of just it was inevitable that you were going to fight, or something you fell into, or how did the passion come about?
My dad never forced boxing on none of us. Not me or my brother. So he just wanted to teach us how to fight and know how to hold our own and stuff like that. So, but we all wound up falling in love with the sport of boxing. Then I was able to see, you know, my brothers fight on TV. They fought on Showbox, Showtime, ESPN, and they was fighting here in Philly. And I was seeing the crowd and the atmosphere that they was getting. I was like, when I get older, I want to be like my brothers.
How old were you when you started boxing?
I was in a gym and I couldn't even walk. I was in like a jumper. I couldn't even walk.
Dang! And your dad trained you. I know your dad trains you, right, John?
Yeah. My dad trained me. Yes.
Did you always listen to him? Because my kids wrestle and they don't listen. They don't want to listen to me. Do you have that sort of reluctance, or as you got older, it got easier? Talk to me about that.
The older I got, the more I was understanding and you know, listening to my dad and stuff like that. You know, he just wanted the best for me, and you know, whatever he say, I do. You know.
It got easier. It got older. Okay, good to hear.
Jerron, what is the Philadelphia gym scene like? Because I've been told by people like Stephen Breadman Edwards, it is different and it's tougher. Do you agree with that?
I don't know about too many about other gyms, but my gym, my sparring sessions be great, but I don't know about the other guys. I know they be going to war and all that stuff and things like that. So they be gym warring. That's what they call it.
Right. You know, Jerron, it's interesting. You're rated 4th at 147 by Ring Magazine. I think many people consider you the best uncrowned champion in boxing. Be honest, with the way the business is playing out, do you think you will actually ever get a shot at a guy like Errol Spence, even if you beat Clayton?
Most definitely. I feel like I'll be able to get a shot at Errol Spence or Bud. So it don't matter who it is. Either one, any champion, I feel like I get a shot at.
Whose style do you think matches up to you more favorably?
Between Bud and Errol?
Yeah, between Bud and Errol, let's say, hypothetically.
It don't either one. It don't matter. It don't matter which one it is. They both two great fighters, but I feel like I'm great all around. I could do everything. You know, styles do make fights, but I feel like I'll figure both of them out. You know.
Had your paths ever crossed on the amateur boxing scene with Virgil Ortiz? Because I know you guys are both the same weight now.
Nah, I actually didn't even. I don't even remember Ortiz in the amateurs at all. So, yeah.
Speaking of welterweight, so you said those two names. We brought them up, Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. Put on your boxing hat. Should they fight, let's say, in 5 months, who do you favor?
Honestly, you can't favor anybody. You know, that's a 50-50 fight. Two great fighters. And I feel like we won't know who gonna win until they step in the ring on that night. You know, I feel like it's that fight up in the air. You know, two great fighters. We'll see when they fight.
Where do you rank yourself in the division?
In my division, I rank myself number 1.
I like the compliment.
Yeah, I like me over anybody, any day.
With that said, though, Jerron, you know the way the business is. Many times you're the hunted or you're the hunter, and right now you are the hunter. Do you feel as though you're being avoided by the bigger names at 147?
No, I'm not avoiding. They just making smarter decisions, business move. I mean, I understand it, but someday we gonna head to fight, whether it's at 47 or 54. So I see those guys real soon. You know.
Anything to the rumors of you facing Keith Thurman?
You said anything to the rumors?
Yeah. Is there any truth to those rumors?
I mean, I'm not sure. We got business to handle in front of us. We got Custio Clayton in front of us, so we're not looking past him. and after I win and do it in dominating fashion, then we could talk about those, those other names and stuff like that. So let me handle business first and make this big statement. Then we could talk about that.
Ah, so there might be something. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So how about this, Duran? I've always thought you had one of the most unusual styles because you're a switch hitter, you're athletic, you could box your way to victory, but you're a very aggressive fighter. Where did you develop that style?
I mean, well, like I said before, I feel like I got everything, and I got box, I can bang, I can be slick, I got defense, I walk you down. It don't matter where the fight go. I feel like I'm comfortable anywhere. But I developed all that from my dad. My dad installed that to me. First thing he installed was defense, and then the offense, and then the slickness and all that stuff. He mixed all that together. So I say my dad and my brothers. That's where I get it from.
When you're not boxing, what are you doing with your time?
When I'm not boxing, I'm chilling. I'm in the house. I don't go outside. I don't party. I'm either chilling in the house, watching movies, or probably playing basketball somewhere. I play basketball a lot when I'm out of camp. So,
Maury, I'll be honest with you. When he's not boxing, he's actually training to box. Because I actually see some Instagram stories. Like, he'll fight on a Saturday, and by that Wednesday, he'll actually be right back to work.
Respect. I love it.
Well, yeah. When I'm out of camp, I do stay in the gym. So my last 2 or 3 fights, I fought on Saturday, and I was back in the gym on Monday. I was training, sparring, and I had to help a couple of my dad fighters get ready for their fights. And so I'm always in the gym. So the gym really like a second home to me, honestly.
That's a real champion right there.
Duran, you're 24 years old, and I believe you spent your whole career at welterweight. There comes a point in time when people do move up. You grow out of a weight class. How much longer can you hold 147 comfortably?
I feel like I can stay this weight as long as I want. I feel like, and then once I grab one of these belts and then grab the rest of the belts, then y'all see me at 54. But for right now, I'm comfortable. I make weight fairly easy.
Wow, no struggles making that. Okay.
So Duran, you want to make it clear, until you get at least a title, if not a chance to win all the belts, the welterweights are going to have to see you. You're not going up. Bottom line.
No, not at all. I gotta get at least one belt. But the goal for me is to be undisputed in about 3 or 4 different weight classes. So that's my goal. So my goal is for me to do it at 47, 54, 60, and maybe 68. So.
Duran, we're all boxing fans here. Did you have a chance to see the recent fight between Bivol and Canelo? And if so, what were your thoughts as a boxer?
That was a great fight. I didn't think it was going to be that outcome, but that was a great fight. Bivol did a good job. Canelo still did good too, but Bivol was a bigger, better guy, on that night.
Do you find yourself watching a lot of fights when you're not fighting, or you don't?
Not really. Like I said, I watch more like movies. I'll be chilling watching movies and stuff like that, and a little bit of watching basketball games and different things like that. But I'd probably say 40% boxing. I'll watch boxing. If it's live boxing, but I watch a lot of old fights too. So it's up in there like 40, 50%.
Duran, as we wrap it up here, final question from me, something I ask a lot of young, passionate fighters who still have a lot of career left. When it's all said and done, what do you want people to say about Duran Boots Ennis, the boxer, and your career? What are your goals?
My goals is to be a 3 to 4 undisputed weight division champ, and that's 47, 54, 60, and maybe 68, and go down history as a legend. One of the best of all time, and be a great example for the kids and anybody else that's coming up behind me. So
just again, I want to go back to the dad dynamic real quick, because I find that fascinating, and we've seen it obviously throughout the years with Roy Jones, Miguel Cotto, and there's a lot of names that go
Trinidad,
on.
Teofimo Lopez, Danny Garcia.
Exactly. And a lot of times it works. I'm just curious, how's the balance when he's just dad and then when he's trainer? And do you feel like that's going to be the case no matter what for the rest of your life?
I mean, they both the same. My dad kind of more like my brother than anything. Like, we got like a great bond. So my dad ain't going nowhere, and we always got a great vibe, and
Yeah, very respected man in the Philadelphia
I like
area.
it, Gerard. No, I'm sure. I'm just.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always an interesting as a father.
He's
It's
a good
an
man
interesting.
too. I've known Derek Posey Ennis for years. He's a solid
Yeah.
individual.
Well, no,
Yeah.
he's a solid young man, so I don't.
Yeah, he's still running and training and hitting the bag. He's still sparring.
So he'll still whoop some ass.
Yes.
Yeah, he actually we weren't running probably about like 2 weeks ago. He was running. I took him to the mile track, not too far away from where I live at, and he was just running around. I was doing my miles and he was doing his miles. So
Look at that.
All right.
he always in shape.
All right.
Nice.
Well, look, Boots, one day when you win the world title, when you become unified champion, 2-time world champion, if you're ever in LA, you have an open invite to join us in studio here. Thank you for your time, Boots. Appreciate it.
Oh man, appreciate it. I got my word. When I grab one of these belts or when I grab all of them, I'll come see y'all for sure.
That's good, buddy.
Thanks a lot.
Good luck this weekend.
And that is Jerron Boots,
Thank
who this Saturday faces Custio
Appreciate
Clinton
it.
on Showtime for the IBF Eliminator. We come back, we wrap it up here with Ask Mario and final flurries on the 3 knockdown rule on Triller. And we're back on the 3 knockdown rule. Time for the Ask Mario segment of the program. Here's one from Ricardo Hernandez. Do you think that PBC quote-unquote stars will now call out Bivol, or will they continue to wait on the Canelo stimulus check? This seems like a rhetorical question.
Yes, on all of the above. But ultimately, Canelo's still the star. Look, I've always said, and we both talked about it, we wish the boxing world was more Canelo-esque in the sense that when you dare to be great and you fight these other, quote again, I'm saying that's the quote of the day, when you take these risks,
Stuff happens.
You're going to lose once in a while. And guess what? That's okay, because you're fighting great guys in the UFC. They lose all the time. And guess what? That's okay. The fans don't care because they know they're going up against other badass dudes. And when you fight other badass dudes, sometimes you lose. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Alex MMA Box. Does Canelo still want Usyk? LOL. You know what that reminded me of last week? That hysteria. This is a funny reference. You watched The Cosby Show, right? Great show, the 80s. I still watch the reruns. I don't care what anyone says. Remember that episode where little Rudy Huxtable became a football player, and she had one good game as a running back, the little girl, and everyone thought, oh my God, she's the best football player. And then the mom said, oh yeah, she's better than Walter Payton. The next game, a group of guys just like tackled her for like minus 50 yards. It was a dose of reality. That's what that was. It was hubris.
Yeah, but I disagree.
It was a great episode, by the way.
I don't think
it was.
First of all,
it was funny.
That was the weirdest analogy I've ever heard. Second of all,
That's pretty good.
I don't think he meant it literally. I think he's like, I have the confidence that feel like I can take on anyone. And that's how you should be as a fighter. I don't think he literally meant he was going to go up to heavyweight. You really think so, Ken?
Yeah, I do.
Come on,
I
man.
do. And by the way, it reminded me of when Trinidad was rampaging William Joppy in the middleweight tournament. And the Puerto Rican fans at that fight had this big banner. And he was supposed to fight Bernard Hopkins next in the Don King middleweight tournament. And this one fan made a tombstone of Vargas, De La Hoya, David Reed, Joppy. And then they didn't even mention Hopkins. It just said Roy Jones in 2001. I'm thinking, no. And then what happened? Bernard Hopkins just executed him.
Exactly.
Here's one from Anthony Santiago. Do you think that if Bivol rematch happens, that Triple G will attempt to unify with Charlo or whoever the other belt holder is? That's what I want. Charlo Golovkin is a hell of a fight.
Sure, if it happens, I wouldn't mind seeing that at all.
I believe this, though. There might be promotional issues, but there comes a point in time that, look, if that third fight is not available by September 17th, Golovkin, finish up your legacy at 160. Once it was all the belts, try to get him.
I'm interested to see if Bivol wants to chase Canelo back at 168.
Ooh, yes. Well, we'll see about that.
It's his biggest payday, too.
Right. Mario, here's one from Big Drama Show. What was a better win on the weekend? Rich Strike in the Kentucky Derby or Bivol?
Are we going to talk about that right now?
We
the
were
Kentucky Derby?
we were at both events, or one of each of us.
Each of us were at both events. First of all, the weekend itself was next level. That is so much fun. And when they say the mint juleps are flowing, it's a big party. The whole weekend's a big party. Drake was there, and Jack Harlow. Everybody was hammered. Trump was there. The only thing is, it always rains every time I've gone a few times. It always rains. Didn't rain on that Saturday, but it did on the Friday before. But I was losing every race. I was betting like an idiot just on stupid stuff. And then I bet there's one horse that was Santino. It was close enough to my son's name, Santino. He's 7-1. I put some money on him. I had a nice little payday right there. I thought I had a nice little box, nice little trifecta bet on the 12th race, which was the Derby race, right? I had me the White Barrio. I had who were the other horses? I can't remember the other horses right now. But anyway, no one was looking at Rich Strike. 80-1. Do you know the story behind Rich Strike? Should be a movie. They made a movie about the horse that won 50-1. This horse was 81. The owner had a fire at his stable. All 21 of his horses caught fire and died. Okay?
Jeez.
He was going to give up the sport. He bought this horse for $30,000, just sort of like as a throw-in. And then last minute he qualified to go in, right? Another horse got injured, and so he came in. They couldn't even get this horse in the stable, and it was the last stable. No horse has ever won in 148 years in the last stable. He came in, and it was like this horse took jet fuel. It was the fastest time ever around the track in the history.
Really?
Ever in the history of the Derby. Kim, he was in last place.
Yes.
This horse, he was like fighting with other horses, biting on their ass, and then all of a sudden, boom, on the stretch, shot out like a rocket. I go, what the hell? I've never heard everybody stunned, mouths like wide open. I go, oh, nobody bet on that horse other than the owners. 80-1. Talk about Rocky Balboa moment right there.
Yeah, and it's almost like Buster Douglas just waiting around and a Mike Tyson opponent.
Much better
drops
analogy.
out.
That's your first good analogy
And
today.
it's like, hey,
your first
Buster.
one. Rudy Huxtable. That was your first good analogy today.
No love for the Cosby Show. Ryan Longer, what non-mainstream sport do you find yourself ever watching on TV? Mine are rugby and truck racing.
You went to rugby, or you watch rugby?
He did. He does. Or Ryan Longer. I don't watch rugby.
Oh, he was talking about.
No.
I thought you were talking
No.
about mine are. Oh, his are rugby.
I have one.
Got it. Tell me.
College women's softball. I actually think baseball can learn from it. I'll tell you why. It's a quick pace. Major League Baseball is unwatchable.
See,
I know you
what?
like it, but it's just too slow. Women's game is quick, and these girls now can actually really hit. Skill level, I'm actually impressed as someone who played baseball. Quick hands, they get the barrel of the bat on the ball, diving catches, but the game is quick.
I disagree with you. Major League Baseball,
Boring.
thinking man's game. It's fun the way they lay it out, but
Boring.
you have to attend it in person, which is much better.
I did, and I'm bored.
The only reason I'll peep out softball once in a while because some of those chicks are cute, dude. Not because of the game's quick.
I
What's
like
the matter
Jenny
with
Finch.
you?
I was a big Jenny Finch fan.
Some of those girls are cute. I'll tell you what. You know what I find myself watching, and I just to relax when I'm kicking it. Fishing shows. I love me a fishing show. It's all nice and quiet, and I like to fish too. I don't know. Yeah, fishing's a sport. Is fishing a sport? I guess they call it a sport.
I didn't know that.
I like fishing shows. You know what? I like to fish. I love to fish. Every
No, I
time I
didn't
go on
know-
vacation, I go
really?
fishing. Yeah,
You
dude.
can be
I
a
go fishing.
professional competitive fisherman.
Yeah, exactly. The Bisbee's tournaments. What am I talking about? It's like $2 million for a fishing tournament. So yeah, that's big business. But I love watching it because it's so relaxing. And then I like to just when I'm on TV chilling, I'll find myself watching it for random things to watch right there.
All right,
Like
so
I said, truck shows.
moving
what are you,
on
5 years old?
to final flurries. Can we get a ceremonial 10 count? We've lost Kevin Samuels. Rest in peace to the Godfather. But his legacy will live on
You're a
in
fool.
YouTube. Mario, you had a very eventful weekend. Not only you were in Kentucky, but we talk about your son's wrestling exploits. There was some parental interference this past weekend.
So I rarely miss a tournament, but it was actually kind of a work trip over at the Kentucky Derby, which was a lot of fun. But when we spoke about it, I didn't know if I wanted to post this or not, but both my son and daughter competed over the weekend. They did really well, both of them. I'm proud of them. And Dominic was pinning this kid, not doing anything illegal, pinning him a traditional cradle move. The father of his opponent grabbed my son's leg and tossed him to the side, which could have really hurt his shoulder and could have hurt his kid too. Under no circumstances should you ever touch another child. Am I wrong?
No.
And I'm so glad I wasn't there because, first of all, that's assault if you want to get technical. I would have jumped so quick and laid that mother.
Family show.
I'm sorry, but you don't touch anybody's kid. And I'm already kind of hyped watching it anyway. My adrenaline's kind of going. I think I get more nervous and fired up than my son. But by the time he picked up his leg and that leg would have hit the floor, the hands would have been thrown. And I don't think any father out there listening to this would disagree with me. You do not ever touch another person's child. If you can't control yourself, show any sort of self-respect or restraint, then you don't need to be participating in youth sports. And your kid needs to be playing another sport. You need to put him in tennis or golf or something, because that's a physical sport, and sometimes they're going to get beat up and cry. My kid used to get smashed out all the time in the beginning. I didn't go over there and I didn't even say anything. That's just because that's the way it is. But that got me heated. And so I ended up posting a little about it. I didn't think go too hard, but I got overwhelmed with a lot of support, and the thing kind of went viral.
Has there been any disciplinary action on that offending party?
Yeah, the organization called me, and apparently that father is now banned from ever attending the California Youth Association for Wrestling. And I feel bad for the kid, because I never want to turn a kid off to that great sport. Yeah. But it's too bad his father's a jerk, and sometimes you got to suffer.
There are ramifications.
There are ramifications. I've seen people wig out on referees and other officials, never on another child.
Yeah. That's like when Sensei Kreese was very upset at Johnny after the 1984 All Valley Karate Championship.
That's different, because that's his own student. That's his own kid. That's like if it would have touched Danielson. That would have been different.
That's a good point.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Maybe you should wrestle the dad. For his chance to be unbanned.
Ooh. The dad clearly doesn't know about wrestling, because he knows that wasn't a threatening move, and he knows he just heard his kid crying and he couldn't take it.
All right, programming note here. I believe as of now, unless something changes, we're going to be off next week. Mario, you're going to be in the Big Apple for a week.
I'm going to be in New York for the week, and we'll be back. Yeah, that's it. That's the last trip for a while, until like June. I have one more, then that's that.
All right, well, that's it for this week's edition of the 3 Knockdown Rule on Triller. On behalf of Mario Lopez, Smokin' Tim Frazier, Justin Buffalo Knuckles, and Tino on the edit. Goodbye, everybody.